Good morning, good morning. I assume not many people can hop in this early on, but I wanted to had a couple extra minutes. Just wanted to hop in here, maybe make a little video, just do some practice, make another video saying if anybody has any questions or anything they want to talk about, just leave me a comment down below and we can discuss at length anything you guys want to talk about. After I do a little bit of warming up here, which literally it's freezing where I'm at right now. But do a little bit of warming up, and then I want to talk about intricacies of two-way pick slanting, two-way escape motion, and I have a couple other licks that I want to give too, because I think that I need to be clear when I say I think it's more advantageous in my own playing to downward pick slant first and do the outside picking thing, and so we can do a couple licks going over that first, because once we get used to that, we only have to learn the other way, because inevitably you're going to have to do both, right? So let me warm up for a couple minutes. That's a stretch. I also noticed that it sounded really dry last time. So I added some reverb. I hope it doesn't sound like it's too much. If you're watching this back, please let me know. Here's a cool one. It's a cool tune. Cool way to figure it out too is trying to consider the chords, which I've gone back and looked at like the sheet music, the piano music for it, which I think generally songs like this that are pretty chord heavy, when they're composed, probably take into consideration more than we necessarily have available on guitar as far as notes at the same time. And so going and looking at the piano music for it, where they can play 10 notes at the same time, is pretty useful. Excuse me. And so this is what I surmise. And what's funny is I saw Paul Gilbert had a version of this as well, which is pretty similar to what I've come up with here, which I would say is, oops, sorry. Oops. That's what we're playing. Sorry about that as I'm talking. What's funny is this diminished chord here, I would say we would want to play maybe like up further, right? Or if we could, or should be like that maybe or something. Because if you listen to the song, it goes up there and kind of stays up there. But it's difficult to do that, to go from here. We would have to play it off of this bass note, because the bass note's what raises up, and then having to do like a, if we could get our hands in that position, it's super difficult. But his summation of it, doing that one, I think that's totally useful, because you hear this, which is a nice bass line, because you have this nice little resolution when we go back there to that minor 7 flat 5. It's really nice. But seeing about some other stuff that's like that. What else have I been doing that's similar? Oh, you know what's funny is, excuse me again. Geez, I'm fighting over something here. You know what's funny is I I was watching an older Andertons video, and if you don't watch Andertons, they're like the source of information about gear, and I am a gear nerd, if nothing else. So they were taught, or as Rabia, and they were doing a sounds like Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I think John Frusciante has an excellent tone, and it's like almost like if Hendrix moved into, if he was alive and would have moved into all the technology that we had moving out of the 70s and the 80s and stuff. I think John Frusciante is a good example of what Hendrix might have done. Of course, he stays true, but he utilizes newer things to get that same kind of sound or maybe make it more convenient. And so it's always fun to watch those and kind of like just kind of get in that same mindset, right? And so they were playing, but they wanted to play Under the Bridge, and Rabia said something in a degree of like, yeah, but I think that's capoed or something. Ha ha ha, it's not. And so if you guys, I don't know if you guys know Under the Bridge, it's a pretty tough song, but it's extremely Hendrix based. Like all the chord shapes he's doing, same thing. Like all those chord shapes he's doing are extremely Hendrix based, and then there are also the chimey things that he's doing in there would be things you would hear Hendrix do as well, so on and so forth. So let me just show you guys. I think it's really cool, and this is not really a song that you would probably think that I would show here, but I think it's pretty cool. If you guys don't know your caged method yet, the caged method is something that's extremely useful, not only for seeing your chord shapes, right, but as you move forward, you can then see all your roots and play all these different chord shapes based off of your roots and based off of like the triads and notes that live there within. But the first thing you do is you lay out your caged method to be able to do this. So caged method being C, A, G, E, and D. We just play those shapes up the neck, right? So if we did it in C, I would just base it off of the root, which here is C, right? And I played a C shape here, so now I would play the root, which if I played A with the open strings, that A is getting played for me, right? So in this case, excuse me, I would have to play that root note like that, right? So C, I'd go off of the root note and play my A chord. So it's almost like I'm cutting the head off the guitar here, right? And just playing an A chord, right? Next is G. I tell everybody this is pretty much a non-useful shape except for the ability to see your 1 and major 3 relation, which lets you build the triads up. And the reason why I say it's not a super useful shape is because first off, you would have to do this, something like this, to be able to do the full shape. And even then, we're missing a note as I like to play it. And then furthermore, it sounds very similar to the E shape, right, which is just our full bar chord. And so the real useful when I teach my students about developing scalar patterns and triads across the fretboard, and we use the caged method as a introduction to that, I pretty much tell them that we can ignore this shape as it lives here, and it really is just a matter of being able to see that relation of 1 major 3 and 5, like I said before. So yeah, then we have our E shape and then our D shape, right? Again, that 1 major 3 and 5 lives in G shape, our E shape, and our D shape. And of course, if you haven't noticed this before, which I think this is a pretty cool little fact here, the C shape is just built off of the D shape, if that makes sense to you. So if we played a regular D down here, like this, right? We actually could do it simply like this, because it's the same thing, right? We are building this. These notes exist. We're just not playing them, right? We're doing the same. That's the same note that we play open, right? It's the same exact thing. So considering that, we could also see the fact that we could play our C shape as a D shape, right? We usually play it like this, right? But we could just simply play it as a D shape as well. It's like if I had to use my fingers on the strings here instead of the guitar being tuned the way it is, I would have to play it like that, the same way, right? Move up a whole step. Would also stand to reason that if I moved D up a whole step, I would get E, half step to F, G, right? These shapes just move up in the same way. Like a lot of people associate this with D, right? And we can call it a D shape, but inevitably it's a C shape too. So moving on to the song, we have something like this, right? It's like a... right? This shape here is just a C shape. And then we have a E shape, right? You see my E shape right there? I'm just barring of F major, right? So that's the intro. The intro to this is challenging in the sense that you have to bar everything almost the whole time, right? And even then, he does like when he comes in to it the second time, he's playing this B string down here while he's also barring. Not that he needs to. To cheat sometimes, a nice way to kind of get around this is being able to just play at least the top part of it, and then kind of like slowly getting your hands down while you're already playing the top part of it, right? But instead, for John, he's gonna play that B and E string at the same time. So it really makes you get right into that bar, which is a challenge for sure. So again. Slide it up, and then back to my shape, right? So the song itself is really cool though, because when we get into this shape here, or I'm sorry, this part here, the different shapes that we're playing they're all the same things that we were just doing, right? This is technically an F shape, but technically this F shape is just the bottom part of my A major shape, or my E minor, or my E major shape, right? I'm playing A major here, sorry. And that stands to reason, because if you were learning guitar initially, what's funny is that when you learn how to play the big shape for F like this, it's inevitably debilitating because you have the bar right next to the nut right there, and this is a tough place to have to hold all the strings down with one finger. That being said though, we as guitar players generally learn the bottom part of it first, to be able to get around that fact. Maybe you'll throw your thumb over to get that root note, right? But it really is just the E shape. That's why F isn't really part of the caged method, because you're already doing that no matter what, because it's just the bottom part of the E shape. So this little F that we're playing here in this way though, which you can consider this to be like a, right? I'm doing what Hendrix did, and so John does what Hendrix did, which was thumb over the top, play that F shape, and that leaves our pinky open to do little chimey things, as Hendrix used to do, right? So what's really cool here is that he's only doing that shape, like we said, it's an E shape or F shape, however you want to see it, and he's doing like an A shape, okay? So again, this is our A shape. We're bringing the root up, we're playing, we're barring with our ring finger, so we have, instead of playing it major here, we're going to play it minor. Right, we've moved up here to C sharp, and we're playing it minor. So instead of putting our major third down, we're gonna be barring with our first finger. We can just leave this ring finger off if you want to. Right, it's kind of nice to get that second octave in there too if you wanted to, but it's just an octave, and we're already playing the low note. It's not that big of a deal. If you want to leave it off, then we have another minor chord here on A flat, and then we're coming to A major here, and we hear the famous. That's what he plays there, which, you know, again, if we're playing this F shape, is very easy to do. So all together. All right, just like that, pretty simple. Now, as we move forward. He plays this a few different times, and the last chord, which it's funny, sometimes like the simplest chords have the most impact, it seems. He's not playing a tough chord here at all. All he's playing is an E major 7. Pretty simple, right? But it's so nice, especially when we get done with that, like all the stuff we've already played there. Jazz. Now, we don't have to go over the rest of it, which I think is... Oops. Sorry, that's what it is. Wait, sorry. I'll just tell you real quickly what he's doing, which is we have a A minor shape here, right? So we've taken our A shape and just dropped that third to make A minor. Just again, like we're cutting the whole neck off the guitar here and playing an A minor, like if it was tuned there, right? Back to an A shape here, A major shape, right? Now we're going to come up here and we're going to take this same A major shape. And this is an interesting thing that I haven't seen done before. And I think this is something that people miss when they try to play this. They'll play it like that, right? But you actually need to try to get this whole D shape here along with the root. So the way to think about that is to just try to play an A shape again and get that pinky arched up. Because you have to hear that E note. If you go back and you listen to the recording, The E note stands out really good. Oh, so let's see. Right back to the same thing we started on here. Oops. I'll go over the last little bit, which is again, we're just playing this F shape, playing it major first and then minor, and then same F shape with an open string, whatever, a little picking. All right, and there's that. Let's turn some distortion on and play some other tunes. All right, so I can't stay on very long. I don't think anybody's going to watch this anyways, at least live. I hope you guys, if you are watching it back, I really appreciate you, and I hope you get something out of it. I'm going to go over, because I had this realization that it's probably more advantageous to, at least in my own understanding, to downward pick slant first and be able to catch the strings outside. Now, I've talked about this before, but if you haven't been around to hang out with us, what I mean by outside picking is exactly what Paul Gilbert teaches, which is you pick outside the strings, right? So if I'm picking, let's take just to keep it in the same vein of Paul Gilbert, to give him the credit for this, because it was through him that I understood this. Let's just do like a pretty simple, actually let's do D major, a D major shape. If we played our D major scale up and tried not to move, we're gonna have a repeated note, but it's gonna sound like this. We have a repeated note here, but that's okay. We're not going to play all these notes at once, but just so we can see the shape, it's 2 whole holes, 2 half holes, and then 2 whole holes again, okay? Right, just like that. Sorry, I had to finish that so we can have some resolution. So as we're doing this, I want you to think about 1, 3, and 5. The Paul Gilbert string skip is nothing more than that. And we have 1 and 3 again on the top, major 3 in this case, right? Could make it minor. It would be the same thing. All you're changing is that minor third, though. But in this case, we'll keep it major. It's a little bit easier to do. And so I want you to do, it's almost like an Eric Johnson or a Sean Lane kind of thing. I can't remember who did it first. I remember them talking about it. One borrowed it from the other, and the other one was fine with it or whatever. They're both Sean was a really good guy. And in fact, his sister lives right close to the music shop I used to work at in Florida. He used to come in all the time and share a bunch of really cool stories about him with us, which was kind of like unbelievably inspiring. But anyways, as I digress here, as I usually do, let me make sure you can see my hand here as well. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this shape, okay, and the main Paul Gilbert string skip, if we started from this high third up here. What I would say to do is you could do 3 downs. There's no problem because we have a pull off to give us plenty of time to get to the next string, right? And this is kind of a rule that he seems to use, is that if there's a pull off or a hammer on, there's plenty of time to do the same stroke on the next string as well. It takes a little bit of getting used to like tap into that, if you will. And there's like certain things you can do to kind of work around it. A good example would be like Toccata, the way he does, because this is like the opposite, right? Because you're gonna have to tap, and then while you're tapping, you have to move your finger, which that's a tough thing to do. Because it feels like the opposite of what you usually do, which is you put your finger down as you pick, right? And so you're making your hand do the opposite of what it's used to, which is tough. And this kind of has that same kind of feeling as we do this. So we're gonna do a like a down pull, and we're moving while we're pulling, right? Now I'm doing down, pull, down, and then immediately up. So boom, instantly we are outside the strings, right? So down, up, pull, hammer, and then up on the new string. Again, hammer, right? I picked the 2 at the top, I think. which is and look, I know that lick sounds really cool, right? But it's really not terribly difficult once you get used to this. I'm nice and relaxed playing it because that's how Paul always looks, because he's kind of thought through these things, right? He's thought through the easier way to do this. And if you do that, you can kind of keep that relaxed thing going on even when you're playing at higher speeds. That being said, though, this hand has a little bit of work to do, right? Trying to get, as I pull the string off the guitar, which is really nice. It's so stupid. But what we want to do for this lick to practice that up down is we're actually going to add a note. We're going to add this fourth here, like this. So you know what that sounds like? If you know what that's from, I think even John Petrucci's played that a few times. If you know what that's from, good for you, man. It's a really cool one. But I'll leave that to mystery. So let's talk about the lick that lives right here, though. We're going to simply do the first note, this one up here every time, with an upstroke and then a downstroke on our new note. Now you can hear the note's ringing out a little bit at the top. And that's totally fine. It's going to be covered up, right? So don't worry about picking this finger up if you don't have to, at least at first. We're really trying to practice the right hand here. We're not trying to practice the left hand so much. We can use our other licks to practice the left hand, right? But for right now, you want to get used to doing this over the strings. And we can even take this a step further and try to do it on multiple strings instead of just these two, like this. Maybe. Right? Kind of like that. And so that's kind of like the Eric Johnson inspired thing, right? And so that's the lick I would recommend to get used to this outside picking. Aside from doing the normal stuff that you would normally do with the Paul Gilbert. Something like that, right? Which is another good way to do the outside picking, because you're having to. This will take it a step further, though, to have to. Take it a step further to do that. So once you get used to that, you can employ the other licks that we have been talking about doing, or actually, let me say it's probably good to do a strictly inside picking lick after this. Now there's a couple of these to go over. Another really good one is another Paul Gilbert lick. That's oops. Oh man, I think I might play that wrong. Is that right? I think that's right. Yeah, it's right. Okay, so it's gonna be. It's been a long time since I played it. I'm sorry. Because you're gonna have to do. There's an inside pick. Starting on downstroke again, another inside pick. So that's a good lick. Now I'm terrible at this, man. Paul Gilbert does that at the end of that song. It's called Fuzz Universe, right? That's a really tough lick to play. And again, it's because he's making the picking. He's adding one extra note, which makes the picking be inside at the end. We just went straight up. We're gonna pick outside the strings. This though, sorry, we're upstroke to downstroke, which is tough. You have to upward pick slant for that. And so he moves it up. It's a tough thing to tie into. So that would be one I recommend. Another lick from that song, or let me play that slow. And so you can move that wherever you want to, but the picking is always starting on a down. catching the new string on a downstroke and then the old string back on an upstroke. So it's you're doing, no matter what, you're doing up, down, up between the strings. Which that's cross picking there. You could, which is upward pick slant, which is a tough thing to do too. And again, the reason why we want to do both of these, right? I just showed you a downward pick slanting outside pick thing versus an upward pick slanting inside pick thing, because we're gonna have to do both when we play a scale, right? That's another good one. The Paul Gilbert double. You're having to inevitably pick an upstroke on every new string because you start with a down. So if you can tie into that pull into the new string every time, it's a good one too. But I think lastly, a good inside picking one might be which is the same thing. Now we have the two-way pick slant that, and if you get used to the upward pick slanting or downward pick slanting, it'd be cool to play this one that incorporates both of them. And that's also from Fuzz Universe. That one's slow is I think I messed it up a little bit there, but I think you get the point. Oh, I missed those upticks. Now it's funny because I've said this before too, as somebody who was very into Paul Gilbert and was very into trying to play just like him technique-wise, and you know, I wanted to use that technique to the best of my abilities for my own stuff. And you know, little licks here and there. You know, I wanted to be able to employ that technique in other places, you know, like maybe like a Paganini, kind of like Paganini's 24th Caprice. Like I went and I learned that, and I'm trying to use Paul Gilbert's technique there because that's kind of what I've developed myself. Is like, okay, thinking in the vein of outside picking as much as possible, using the hammer-ons and pull-offs as a way to do the same pick on the other string to get us around the fact that it's a tough thing to do, whatever, you know, the inside picking thing. But I would say that using these riffs to get yourself used to both of them is an important thing, and then you know you'll be off to the races, and not having to cheat like that. Which that one I'm forcing it into an upstroke on the new string every time, right? Oops. I gotta stop watching myself in the camera. That's all I'm doing. Stare at myself on the screen in the camera, and I mess up every single time. It's funny. I just look down. That's another cool one. Yeah, anyway, so as I digress here, I'll show one last thing and I'm gonna hop off, and this is yet another Paul Gilbert thing. It got me thinking about this really cool little progression. I think I remember. There it is. Okay, so I can't remember. I think this is from Eudaimonia Overture, which I just learned. Eudaimonia is like an ancient concept about pushing yourself or something like that, or trying to do something to the hardest level always, or trying to make yourself succeed on the highest level or something. I shouldn't even say anything. I have to look that up to be sure before but look up Eudaimonia, which is really, I think it's like E-U-D-A-I is how it starts off. But I think, I'm pretty sure it's that song. That song right there. Eudaimonia Overture, I'm pretty sure. But he plays pretty simple chord shapes here, but the progression is so great the way that it lays out here. Listen to this. If I just strum the chords, you'll hear what I'm saying. Let me get this off and get a cleaner sound. Much cleaner sound here. Yeah, there we go. Or is it? No, I think. No, it is. Sorry. My bad. Sorry. I think, what does he do there? I think it's, yeah, so the way he picks it though, oh, I'm sorry. That's why. That's what it should be, sorry. Yeah, so these chords though. Sorry, is that right? Man, I keep doing it, sorry. So sorry like 100 times. So nice, man. I love that. Simple D shape here, moving it around. This sounds like a specific song. I can't think about what song it is right now. To me, it sounds kind of like what's that? Something like that, right? But that's kind of, you do just D shape, moving that one note, right? And then we have kind of like an A shape here. We've gone up to where we're playing. And that's just a typical, pretty typical E minor shape at a 9. We have a nice little resolution to G major there. Really cool stuff. All right, I have got to go get ready. Hope this was helpful. Play for a couple minutes just so I can make sure that it doesn't cut me off there. But I'm sorry for the short stream. If you're tuning into this late, please leave me a comment or something below, just to if there's any of this helped. I mostly did this. I think I'm gonna chop this up a little bit, make a couple videos about the two-way pick slanting stuff. I hope those licks help. They're really cool licks. To throw in, I found myself, if I used to play in a church band, a bunch of different ones, and I'd get called to do that sometimes, where you go sit in somewhere and almost all their stuff's in major. And aside from sounding bluesy or just playing a straight major scale, these little string skips are nice because you can turn most of these like progressions. A good example would be, I suppose, Canon, right? Canon would be a good one to do, I would say. Something like that's a good example. But you can just turn, you have these string skips, you don't have to play all of it straight up and down, but you have the... these little string skips to work in, make it sound nice and ethereal, while also not playing super scalar things. And they're simple. They're very simple triad patterns, right? If you really wanted to do other things, you know, you could add maybe if we did something in like in G here, we could add that major 7 in there too, which is really nice. But just some things to think about. Play for a couple of All right, guys.